Hi, this is Dick Clark. You know, I got thinking there isn't any way I'm going to be able to ramble about the past 20 years of my life in and around rock and roll and get it done in any reasonable length of time. Too much has happened. I have so many great memories I'd like to share with you, but one of the things people ask me most frequently is who made their first appearance on television on one of the shows you've produced? And I'd like to share some of those memories with you. Keep in mind that when American Bandstand started back in the Philadelphia days in 1952, all the big stars came by. The Four Aces, Eddie Fisher, Georgia Gibbs, Patti Page, Don Cornell, Johnny Ray. Rock and roll? Well, Alan Freed hadn't broken that on the world yet. I remember Bill Haley and the Saddlemen. He later decided that the Comets was a little more appropriate. On another day, many years later, I had a request from these gentlemen to see if I could dredge up an old kinescope of their first American Bandstand television appearance. It was November of 1957, as I recall. They came to Philadelphia, complete with crew cuts and smiles and eager young faces to promote a record. Matter of fact, they had a different name in those days, Tom and Jerry. That was the first network television appearance of a couple of fellows named Simon and Garfunkel. And when we started the Saturday night Dick Clark show in New York, the network people thought it'd be a great idea if an older, established star introduced a newcomer. So we got Johnny Ray to introduce a girl singer. Her father, as a matter of fact, picked her songs. He's the fellow who picked Who's Sorry Now because it was a favorite of his. Johnny Ray introduced her, Connie Francis. I once got a favor call from a famous talent manager. She said to me, could we please use this very bright, talented, shy young man? He wasn't a rock and roller, but she was sure he'd be a big star, and we booked him. And he came back many times. And he was shy and very talented. And he's still a giant. He made his first appearance on the bandstand. Johnny Mathis. Somebody else said to me, got a kid we found on a doorstep in Philadelphia. Wait till you see him. He looks like a cross between Elvis Presley and Ricky Nelson. We put him on television and we developed a very special close-up shot to accentuate his sensuous good looks. We called it the Fabian shot. You know something? They're still taking Fabian shots of Donny Osmond and Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney and Alice Cooper. Now, this fellow didn't really want to do our show, but his manager was and still is a very close personal friend of mine, and I asked him for a favor. And they came. And they made their first national television appearance on the Rock and Roll Dance Show. Jim Morrison and the Doors. Now, this young man was a Philadelphia trumpeter. His manager thought he'd sound a little more commercial if he held his nose as he recorded his first record. And he held his nose. And he knocked every teenage girl of the 50s for a loop with a thing called Dee Dee Dinah. Frankie Avalon. Now, this cocky young fellow used to come to Philadelphia regularly. He hadn't had a hit yet. He did all the record hops, but he tried hard. He hung in there, and he finally got a hit. And another hit, and another, and another, and another. And then he came to me. We'd become pretty close personal friends by then. He said, going to switch styles, Dick. What do you think of this record? And I listened to it, and I said, ooh, boy, that isn't what your fans expect. That isn't you. That record is never going to make it. Don't do it. Wonder how many times he's sung that song since that conversation. The song was called Mac the Knife. His name was Bobby Darin, of course. These four wonderful guys dragged